We are now on to a really interesting presentation. So Einar Landre, a really good colleague of ours at future events. Einar Landre is a lead analyst at OSDU for Equinor, and he's going to be presenting what Downstream can learn from Upstream. So over to you, Einar.
Hello, I'm Einar Landre. I'm working for Equinor, a Norwegian oil and gas company. And in this talk, I'm basically going to speak about what Downstream can learn from Upstream, knowing that also that Upstream and Downstream is basically found in the same companies. Within Equinor, I'm basically been working with the OSDU data platform initiative for the last 4 years, and I'm currently sitting on the OSDU Forum's management committee as one of 5 operator representatives. So let's roll and see where this takes us. So the first thing I put up is that what does Upstream and Downstream have in common? And of course, it's all about moving liquids. And to move those liquids, we use facilities that are sometimes long-lived, they are expensive, and of course they don't change from one day to the next. I think also, without provoking too much, that we think too much about being unique. We think that the oil and gas industry in itself is something that is different to other industries. I, in many ways, challenge that. And of course, the industry is also characterized by complex value and supply chains. And I think also, without insulting anybody, that the industry struggles to keep up with the pace of the tech industry in itself. And to a large degree is stuck in what some called the application-centric quagmire. And basically, that's about siloed applications. So let's move on from this short intro to, if we look at how IT cost has developed over the last, say, 5 decades. If you go back in time, hardware costs much more than software, and it was usual, and the operating model was basically to say that, okay, you bought hardware and got the software you needed as part of the hardware. And I myself remember back in the early 80s that the 1 megabyte memory card costed $1 million Norwegian krone, or basically $100,000 to put it into for 1 megabyte memory. So of course, over the years, over the decades, the cost has shifted from hardware, which is basically almost become for free, and to software. And on the software side, of course, what drives the cost levels, of course, is down to complexity. It's about dependencies, it's about integrations, it's about all the people that is needed to be involved in this game. And of course, the cost to change something functional. And of course, in the bottom of this, it's to a large degree the application-centric mindset that is the root cause of this thing. So we will dive a little bit more into that as we now look forward. So why is this application-centric mindset harmful? And here I got some inspiration from a book that I will use to quote, and it's put up, and it's called Software Wasteland. And basically, the problem with starts with a 3-layered architecture, or the 3-tiered architecture, where basically a change in one layer propagates to the other ones. So it leads to much more coupling than the isolation of concern that was basically in this original design. That yes, okay, we could decouple the user interface from the data model, but the point is that the user interface exposes the data model one way or the other to the end users. So that decoupling does not really happen. What happens is that if I change something in the data model, that need to be visualized in one or more user interfaces. So we have this sort of we've gone from something that was difficult to something that is even worse. The second thing, of course, is that every enterprise is an interconnected system without any clear boundaries. For those who's familiar with the concept of domain-driven design and the book of Eric Evans, of course, knows that he introduced a concept called bounded context, that basically we were able to isolate stuffs in a bounded context and clean up design with that. But the problem in the enterprise space is that those bounded contexts are not as bounded as we like them to be from an idealistic software engineering point of view. So point is that wherever we put some sort of a line through this, what it leads to is that, yes, it leads to data being duplicated. And the last thing, of course, is this sort of that it also in such space becomes a breeding ground of unnecessary complexity. And here I always used to quote the only time I've been in the same room as Steve Jobs back in 1994, where he said in a talk that basically what he said is that the code that is important to think about is the code you decided not to make. And that goes into this one, because the more code you have, the more each line of code you want to add or change will increase. So the fewer lines of code, the better. So this is basically, but this mindset of applications has caused this quagmire. So what is the alternative to this application-centric approach? And again, it's another book by the same author, and that's called The Data-Centric Revolution. And the underpinning story here is that data ages as wine and applications ages as fish. And he has defined that data-centric enterprise is one where all application functionality is based on a single, simple, extensible data model. Of course, that sounds as a mouthful. And the point is that applications must be ephemeral, and data is the important thing, and the important and enduring assets. That goes back to the data ages as wine, and applications ages as fish metaphor. So point is that we need to design with data sharing in mind. We need to make the data model more evolvable. We need to make it to be able to be specialized, and it need to be, yes, single, but also federated. We can't accept that there is this sort of one single relational data model rule them all. That has never fly or worked, or will never work in the future either. So what we need is some sort of a data model that captures the interdependent reality of the enterprise. And here, basically, the OSDU forum and data platform comes into play, because the OSDU data platform initiative, of course, is an industry initiative. It's organized as an open source software project. It's about standardizing the data models and the data platform services. It's also about creating interoperability between workflows and applications. And of course, in the long term, its ambition is to reduce the cost. And of course, given that this started out with basically with 6 or 7 operators in the room back in 2018, it's now grown to 220 plus member companies, and there is a lot of, and we have made a working data platform, of course, for the subsurface, and that's important. This has been done for the subsurface, but we have a working data platform, and the operators and their ecosystem of software vendors is now starting to take advantage of it. The data platform exists as commercial offerings from all major cloud service providers, including AWS, Google, IBM, and Microsoft. So you can pick your choice, and it should be basically with the same behavior, independent of which one you think is best for you. And this is basically, so what does the OSDU data platform? Yes, again, a standardized data platform. It's made for, in first place, to basically be a system of record, basically, so we are able to manage the data sets in a consistent, coherent data model with known quality. We have the lineage and we have consistency. And of course, we have the interoperability. Yeah. But I think also it's important to talk about what it's not. And it's not a replacement for existing application stores, even though that might be possible over time. But of course, going from the application-centric world to the data-centric world is a journey. It's not something that you decide to do and then you rig a project and you do it in 3 or 6 or 9 months. Forget it. It's a journey that takes time. And but we think that the OSDU data platform is one crucial step on the journey to become data-centric. And with the OSDU data platform, the upstream part of the oil and gas industry has made a major step with respect to basically moving from its application-centric world to becoming much more data-centric. So, and this I think takes us to the last slide. What is the main learnings that the downstream part can learn from its upstream sibling, put it that way? And I think the first thing, of course, is to embark on a data-centric journey. Of course, yes, the data models in the upstream part and the downstream part are different, but at the same time, it's more in common than that separates them. And the second lessons learned is that this kind of journey is too big to be conducted at the company level. It requires industry-level collaboration and standardization. That's one of the most important lessons learned from the OSDU journey so far. We are not able to do this thing, to change an ecosystem, to change a way of working and deploying digital capabilities on a single company level. And we think from an upstream perspective that yes, the downstream in part of our industry can take lots of learning. They can even reuse some of the technology that's been made in the OSDU data platform journey. But of course, they also have additional data models, as they are not that, even though there are some overlaps, of course, but the focus, of course, in the upstream is on reservoirs and how to drain reservoirs versus how to optimize the downstream liquid flows into the market. But there is the platform, the OSDU data platform is there, and the key thing is that it can be extended to cover downstream needs. And if you don't want to do it within the framework of the OSDU data platform, at least the learnings from how to organize a forum and how to, get the industry onboarded should be possible to do. And given that most of the upstream players have huge downstream businesses, it's basically taking advantage of what you already know about in your own organizations. So that should be it. There is the data to become data-centric. The downstream industry can learn a lot from what their upstream has done with respect to the OSDU data platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Einar. Very interesting about the correlation between upstream and downstream. I think there's a lot of synergies there and a lot of common denominators that probably could be worked on, especially when it comes to data platforms. Very interesting you mentioned about the, no one company can do this alone. And I think that's a very good point. I think, as we look to scale, and you can see this, it's quite a sort of regular fit throughout our panels. You need that area of collaboration, whether it's with your internal staff, external vendors, other operators, other people, other demographics. I think the collaboration part is really key because you will learn from that. And I think that's the common theme I'm getting from a lot of the sessions that have been done today. Actually, very interesting to see that. I have to admit, that one word threw me off. Application-centric quagmire. I've never heard that, Einar, in my life. And that's a first for me. So thank you for giving me a first for this event. Really fantastic. Great work, Einar. Love having you as always. We're on to a networking break and we're back in 15. So see you then.